All right. Looks like we're live. Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
How is everybody this morning?
Good.
All right, so who's ready to travel to South Carolina? By a show of hands, who's been to South Carolina? 1, 2, 3. You've been there 10 times?
I think in 2010.
Oh, 2010. Okay. So, how were your guys' experiences while you were in South Carolina? Travis?
2010.
Yeah. So, how was it? Did you like it? All right. Awesome. So, you guys liked South Carolina as well?
I do.
Yep. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about yet another state in the American South. It's got some history that we got to talk about and some stuff that I think you might find very interesting. And maybe Vanessa, too, might find this a little interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the flag of South Carolina. So right here, you have this blue field. And then right over here, you have a crescent moon representing the nighttime. And you got this little palmetto tree. This is not a palm tree. It's a palmetto tree. Let's just be clear about that. And so you'll see these palmetto trees everywhere in South Carolina. And because it's very common here, it's become something of the state tree amongst other symbols as far as plants are concerned, as far as animals are concerned, all these things. So shall we move on to the next slide?
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about where it's located. So right here, that's where South Carolina is located. So those of you who have been to South Carolina, you're going to know that like a lot of states in the American East Coast, it's along the coast right over here. Right here is the Atlantic Ocean. Here we are in California. We're right next to the Pacific Ocean.
I live there.
Yep, we all live here in Elwyn, California, Fountain Valley. So you're going to notice that South Carolina is bordered by North Carolina over here, Georgia over here, and you're going to see that it's bordered, obviously, to the Atlantic Ocean, obviously. So the capital of South Carolina is Columbia, but the largest city is Charleston. So those of you who have been to South Carolina, have any of you been to Charleston?
Nope. I didn't.
No? What about Columbia? No? Oh, okay. That would have been a far more interesting conversation if any of you have, but okay, that's fine. No judgment here. So as far as geographical features are concerned, it's mostly mountainous because if you look right here, right about this stretch of land would be the Appalachian Mountain. If any of you heard of that, we might have talked about it in Georgia, probably Tennessee as well. If you guys remember that. And so climate-wise, it is what is called a humid subtropical climate. Do any of you know what that means? Nope. All right. So what it basically means is that during the summer, it could be hot and humid, but during the winter, it could be mild, cold, or just cool at best. So you better plan your trip very carefully. Yeah. So if you're going to go there during summer, be sure not to bundle up as much. But if you're going to go during winter, you may want to bundle up because it can rain, but in certain places it can snow. So be careful, guys. Let's talk about some brief history in the next slide. So I know this looks confusing because I found two maps during colonial era. Right here is where the Carolina colony would be. It encompasses half of Florida. That's a whole other story. And right over here is another colonial map back when it was, well, sort of, kind of part of the British colonies. And then you got the French, French border disputes and expansions and what have you. So that's a whole other story. But the point being is that Carolina, or North and South Carolina, used to be one colony. This is it right here. Sea to sea, Charleston, and then you got this little river right here. And then you got St. Augustine under Spain, sort of. So once upon a time, this place used to be inhabited by the Cherokees and the Catatablas. They were native peoples who lived along the Appalachian line. They also lived along the river systems. It wasn't until the 16th century that's when Europeans started to move here. And you're going to see the early colonial architecture in the later slides, which I'm about to show you. There's a lot of proof of European type of architecture. But as far as the name is concerned, it was named in honor of King Charles I of England. And because we're talking about land here, yeah, we have to make it a sort of like, I guess you could say, feminized version of a male name. That's a common trend you're going to find. So Georgia was named after King George, being a man. Then it was feminized to Georgia. Get it? So you're going to see that as a common pattern. So let's move on to the next slide.
Wow. That's pretty.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is, and forgive me for not pronouncing this correctly, this is Kangaroo National Park during the night.
That's beautiful.
Every summer, you have these firefly festivals that they hold, and you get to see all these fireflies.
Oh, the fireflies.
See these bright gold dots here? Those are fireflies.
Wow.
And I have more pictures of fireflies on the next one. See right here?
Oh, wow.
These are also fireflies. This is a more broader view of the forest within Kangaroo National Park. So Kangaroo National Park is about 41 square miles. It's known for its annual firefly festivals that you can see right along the bridge lines. Sometimes you can see them right close to your face. So if you guys want to see fireflies, you got to go during the summer.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. To any of you watching at home, yes, these are fireflies, these gold dots and these little blankets right here in the background. So, yeah, fireflies are pretty common amongst anywhere where it's humid and tropical, or at least subtropical, kind of like what we talked about in Illinois. I saw some fireflies in Illinois, so you're going to see that as a common pattern in warm places in the U.S. So let's move on to the next slide. Here's what it looks like during the daytime. The same national park. This is just another hiking trail. You got these tall trees along the mountains in the back, and this is located right along the foot of Appalachia, I believe, something along those lines. Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of trail paths that you can walk through, and this is going to look like a huge maze.
What a cool.
Yeah, it is beautiful. So let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about Myrtle Beach.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is Myrtle Beach, and this is the biggest view that we got so far.
And guess where we got that view from? Guess who took that picture?
Look.
Me. Mr. Henry.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Mr. Henry took that picture.
The next few slides you're going to see were all pictures taken by Mr. Henry Michaels, who's been to South Carolina, and he's been to the next locations that I'm about to show you.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. You ready?
Yo.
Remember, Henry
Here's-
took these pictures.
Here's more pictures of Myrtle Beach. You're going to notice a pattern here. That Myrtle Beach, along other places in South Carolina, yeah, there are usually these locations where it's very popular with beachgoers. So, yeah. So Myrtle Beach is pretty well known for a lot of things, but amongst the other things that it's known for its wide beaches and large selection of challenging golf links, to those of you golf enthusiasts.
Nice.
It's known for its excellent seafood restaurants and outlet-style shopping activities. So kind of think of Santa Monica a little bit, but only more of a southern style to it. By show of hands, have any of you been to Santa Monica? 1, 2,
Have anybody been down to Santa Monica in LA? I'm sure you have, Gene.
3.
Oh, you guys go lots of places.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like Santa Monica, a little bit of Venice Beach, only it has a more southern style to it. So yeah, let's move on to the next slide, shall we? So here's the boardwalk of Myrtle Beach. And the reason why I say it's kind of like Santa Monica is because of the Ferris wheel. That was the first thing that caught my eye. That was literally the first thing that caught my eye, including these pizza joints down here. So if any of you go down to Myrtle Beach, you gotta try the seafood. I hear it's great. By a show of hands, who likes seafood? No? I guess nobody. Nobody likes fish?
I can't eat fish.
No? Why not?
I do. No, I do.
Okay, cool.
Tuna or salmon.
Tilapia.
Tilapia.
Dude. We're not getting into the food just yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So some of the more common locations that you'll find, plantations. Once upon a time in the American South, there were plantations dotted all over this southern region of the U.S. And what they did here was they grew cotton, they grew sugar, and they grew other cash crops. And usually when you see plantations, they have this what are called Victorian style of architecture. This is what Victorian style looks like.
Wow.
So the reason why it's called Victorian is because it was during the time of Queen Victoria. And she was one of the longest reigning queens of England. She lived, I believe, from the early 1800s, and then she died at 1899. She lived a long time. She was one of the oldest serving monarchs of England.
Do you know what age?
She was about like in her mid-90s, I think.
Wow.
Something like that, which is impressive given the medical technology of the time. So yeah, plantations, very common places. Henry does not remember which one this one's called, but I'm pretty sure if we've looked it up, maybe we could find it, but I was unable to find it too because there are so many of them. Just so everybody knows that. So let's move on to the next slide, shall we? So here's some of the other locations that you're going to find. These are the house streets. And a lot of these are also styled in, what do you call that, Victorian architecture and, colonial southern type of architectural style. So these are just some of the other streets that we got here. Let's move on. Churches are another common sight. This one is another picture by Henry. So right here you have the clock tower, and right at the bottom, I know it's covered by trees, but trust me, that's a church underneath. And it wasn't clear as to what statue that was. I never did ask about that. I should have, but I didn't. Yeah, and I'm telling you guys to pay attention. The irony is not lost on me. Let's move on to one more picture by Henry. Have you guys heard of Fort Sumter?
I did.
Yeah?
Hey.
Everyone else doesn't know Fort Sumter?
Never heard of it.
Okay, so to those of you who took history lessons in school, you might have heard of a little thing called the American Civil War, right? So this is where the first battle took place, Fort Sumter. It was a major military installation of the time, and I know you can barely see this, but I promise, right here is a cannon pointing at the ocean. This was to fend off against foreign invaders, anyone who was looking to encroach on U.S. territory. You'll notice that with a lot of fortresses, especially made during the 1800s, 1700s, colonial era, or whenever the time gunpowder was first invented to when we started using, modern weaponry. You got cannons here. You have these thick layer of bricks right over here too. So yeah, story has it this was where the first battle took place. Confederate soldiers were attacking Union defenders in here, and then they took the entirety of the fort. And that's what kicked off the Civil War.
Interesting.
Yep. Now let's move on to the next slide. Who's hungry?
Me. Oh my goodness. Is that like pork?
That's pulled pork.
Oh, that's Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, like I said previously, you'll notice a pattern here. There's a lot of barbecue recipes and barbecue style dishes throughout the American South and the Heartland as well. So in case you guys are wondering, this is pulled pork, this is coleslaw, and this is collard greens. Yeah. No. To be honest with you guys, I've never tried collard greens before.
I tried it once. At first, when I just hear the name, it's like too much veggie sounds like it. But they're pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
The look on your face, you're all suspicious. You're like, what? Collard greens?
Only things that are green.
Yeah, things that are green. No, they're just basically vegetable leaves.
But they're really good.
Yeah, well, that's what I hear. I haven't tried it, and I will try it myself. I don't know if you guys have tried it, but those of you who did not, you should. So let's move on to more food. So who likes sweet potatoes?
I do.
I do.
Yeah. So you'll notice that sweet potatoes are also a common food staple in the American South, especially in North Carolina. Have you tried sweet potatoes?
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, my mom wasn't man was no sugar and stuff.
Ooh, brown sugar. I like that. So what they do with sweet potatoes, you guys, they use it for everything. If they don't use it for fries, they'll just bake it, grill it, or fry it. Yep. And guess what? They turn this into ale, alcoholic beverages.
Really interesting.
Yep.
Don't look too good.
Yep. They would make chips out of it, or they could just make alcohol out of it. Southern Tater Sweet Potato Ale. Yeah. To those of you who are wondering, ale is kind of like beer, but it has a different texture from what I'm understanding. Not that I drink alcohol, trust me, but that's just what I found in my research. We don't endorse alcohol drinking.
Right.
So let's move on to the next slide, shall we? Who wants some sweet tea? So we got some sweet tea. We got some lemon along here. That's just for decoration. The flowers. Don't ever eat the flowers. That's just for decoration. So here's the funny thing about sweet tea in South Carolina. Nobody knows how it got here because tea is not native to the American South. So as far as how it got there, we don't know. But one thing is for sure, there's one place, and I'll tell you this much. It's said that the city or town of Somerville is said to be the birthplace of sweet tea. That's what they claim, but we don't know where sweet tea actually comes from. So that much will be a mystery for a long time. So anyone who knows Indiana Jones, you may want to give him a call. He's good at solving mysteries, or Sherlock Holmes. So let's have some dessert, ladies and gentlemen. Ready?
Dun, dun, dun.
Lady Baltimore cake. Ta-da! Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Lady Baltimore cake. Let me give you the long story short of this. It's just basically a layered cake of your choosing. So it could be a cake right here. You could have strawberry raisins. You could have blueberries in here. And it's just smothered with cream and pecans up here.
That looks delicious.
If you're wondering what's your next dessert going to be, well, here it is. You're welcome. Yep. So before we move on to the next slide, I want to let everyone know South Carolina, and I found this in my research, does not have a professional sports team. I repeat, they do not have a professional sports team. And that's because a lot of their professional sports teams, quote unquote, that belong to South Carolina are actually from its neighbor to the north, North Carolina. So let's take a look at them, shall we? This is one of them. Carolina Panthers. So they are one of those teams from North Carolina, but they are specifically in the city of Charlotte. So yeah, these guys, they won some division championships. They won 6 division championships, and they won 2 conferences. So yeah, the Carolina Panthers. That's nothing to slouch over. So let's move on to the next team. The Hurricanes.
No.
No? What do you mean no? Yeah, well, they're one team within the hockey realm. This team is based in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
And they won the Stanley Cup back in 2005.
Yeah, one, that's all.
Won. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, how do you explain that they have 8 trophies in the hockey league?
No, it's one. Come on.
1. Yeah, and that's something to sneeze at?
You want to eat, you want.
Okay, fine. You have it your way, I'll have it my way. Let's compromise. Yeah, they only won 1 Stanley Cup. They also have 8 trophies. Don't worry, guys. Anyone who's watching at home, we're just having a little fun. So let's move on to one more team. The Hornets. The Hornets are a basketball team also from Charlotte, North Carolina. So they changed their names so many times. I don't know why, honestly, but okay. Even though they have won no championships, they've won 7 basketball awards, including Rookie of the Year, including Professional of the Year, things like that. So let's move on to some famous people, shall we? Anyone familiar with this next face?
Who can it be?
I do.
James Brown.
Anyone recognize James Brown?
Yes, the one that sings "Try Me."
Oh, no,
I don't
man.
know how to sing, but that song.
So this man was titled the Godfather of Soul.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
Sing it, Matt.
I feel good.
I feel good. Feel good. Dun, dun. So good. So yeah, the Godfather of Soul. He was also one of the biggest voices. He was also one of the biggest voices for an entire black audience. He taught people to be empowered. And speaking of James Brown, let's move on to the next face. Anyone recognize this guy? I do.
Okay, good boy.
No, that's Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther.
I knew that. Come on.
Yeah, even though I don't have a picture of him in a Black Panther suit, but I'll tell you this much: he earned himself a big name when he played the titular Black Panther in the Marvel movies. He appeared also in the Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. Oh man, rest in peace, Chadwick. He passed away 2 years ago from cancer. Rest in peace. Wakanda forever.
Yes.
So the reason why I bring him up is because, as a funny little coincidence, he and a certain character he played are also from the same place. So who's ready to move on?
Let's see.
Recognize these 2 faces. James Brown, Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Remember? Do you guys remember Jackie Robinson from the previous place we traveled to, Georgia? Yeah. Chadwick Boseman played him in the movie 42. And he also portrayed James Brown in the movie Get On Up, the James Brown story. So have any of you seen these movies?
I did.
You have? What'd you guys think of them? Pretty good, right? So. I thought they were pretty good. So yeah, when you look at movies based on true stories, you got to remember, you got to look at where these people come from. So that was Chadwick's career before he became the famous Black Panther, defender of Wakanda. So, shall we move on to the next slide?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the people real quick. So this is what South Carolina looks like on a physical map. You're going to notice that Columbia is right over here. Charleston is over there. And like I said, the capital is Columbia, but the largest city is Charleston, right over here. And remember when I talked about Fort Sumter? It's just a few miles away from the main city, right down here. That's where Fort Sumter would be, on this little tip right here. So yeah, as of 2020, there are over 5 million people living in South Carolina. But the most common ancestries are English and Scots-Irish. I know that's just half and half, but shout out to Laura, who's Irish. Just saying. Miss you, Laura. So yeah, that's how many people live here. And then you're going to notice that there's a lot of dispersed locations like Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, Rock Hill, and what do you know? Myrtle Beach, right over here.
Nice.
So even though there are over 5 million people living here, they're spread out all over the place. Oh, and I just realized Kangaroo Park is right over here. And this little outline over here is the national park. So, ladies and gentlemen, shall we conclude today's class?
Yeah.
Yeah, you ready to move on to the next one? So, here's the license plate, and right up here is their motto. While I breathe, I hope.
Nice.
Yep, and you got your palmetto tree, the crescent moon, South Carolina. I think this is expired.
I get on the road, like that plate is expired.
Guys, I'm just doing research. I'm not nitpicking about the expired and
They
stuff.
owe some fees.
They owe some fees to the DMV. Yeah, you're not wrong. South Carolina DMV. I would like to make a call about an expiration date. It's on my presentation slide.
Me?
Yeah? You like the DMV license plate?
Pick your one.
Yeah. Yep. So ladies and gentlemen, so South Carolina, you're going to notice something. It has been said to be the place that never changes. And despite how much time has moved forward, these people have maintained a lot of traditions, from their cuisines to their music, architecture, and the historical presentation that we've seen here, and including the preservation of its environment. So if you ever go to South Carolina, try out their foods, listen to their music, see new places, enjoy the nature, like Kangaroo National Park. And if you ever do go to South Carolina, ladies and gentlemen, please don't get lost in Myrtle Beach. It's a huge place. It's a huge place. But other than that, if you ever see Henry down there, be sure to say hi. That is to say, if he's going back down there anytime soon. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you on the road.
Matt has a question for you.
Yeah.
My dad his phone is one more deal.
His brother?
Yeah, my phone is linked is coming here.
They're gonna come here?
No, we did go over there.
Oh, you're gonna go over there to visit?
Oh, okay.
You did?
I did.
Nice.
All
So
right.
he's telling you he's
No.
over there to visit.
No, he's not gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Nice.
So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
and
you.
before I conclude, I'm just letting you know this ahead of time. We're talking about South Carolina. We're going to go to the north next. Just letting you know that right now.
Right.
Just giving you a sneak peek.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jeremy,